I'm Dr. B. Today I'm going to take us through what we call percentage yield. How do we calculate percentage yield in chemistry? So today we are going to look at percentage yield. Percentage yield. How do we calculate percentage yield in chemistry? We don't have much time to waste discussing. We'll just go straight to what this implies. Now, I want us to know that in an ordinary mathematics, you can always calculate the percentage. And percentage, for example, you are asked to calculate 2% of, let's say, 10, 2% of 10, 2% of 10. I hope you know that it's just a simple case of placing the 2 over 100 multiplied by 10 all over 1. So this 0 cross this 0, and then of course you have 2 all over 10 that is left, and this will cross with 2 and give you 1 over 5, and this possibly is 0.5%. So in ordinary mathematics, percentage is in this way, and we can apply same to solving chemistry problem. Now let us take a good look at one chemistry example. Let us say the formation of an ester. Now let's say in chemistry we are given a question, and the question is you have an equation which is this is ethanol reacting with COOH. This is ethanoic acid, and it gives us CH3COOCH3 plus water. This is the formation of an ester. This is ethanol reacting with ethanoic acid to give us an ester which is called methyl ethanoate and water. Now let us say by proportion 5 grams of this by proportion. Let's say by proportion 5 grams of ethanol reacted actually with 10 grams of ethanoic acid, and the ester that was formed was 20 grams. That is by proportion. Now in the experiment itself, the experimentation was carried out, and the actual reactions, the actual compounds that the actual amounts that went into the reaction were these. Let us say in the actual experimentation we have 2 grams was what was actually used, and the ethanoic acid was used in excess, while we have a yield, let's say we had a yield of 3 grams, so we can be able to work with the numbers. Okay, now these are the actual amount. These were by proportion. These are the actual amounts that were being used, and now you are asked to do what? You are asked to calculate percentage yield. Calculate percentage yield. The percentage yield is that already we know that this particular reaction where ethanol reacted with ethanoic acid to give methyl ethanoate as an ester yielded 3 grams. Now we are to look to calculate the percentage yield, not the amount in this way, the percentage yield. It brings us to this percentage we calculated. Now remember the fact that this is used in excess, so it did not actually contributed seriously to what? The reaction. It is the ethanol that contributed seriously to the reaction. Remember what we discussed in our rate of chemical reactions. So this particular reactant took part majorly in the reaction. So we are going to use this reactant to calculate our yield. Now I want us to know that if you are looking for percentage yield, there is a formula that applies. Know that percentage yield is equals to actual yield, the actual yield all over what? All over the theoretical yield times 100 over 1. That takes us to what? To the solving of the mathematical aspect, where we place 2 all over 10 times 100. The actual over theoretical times 100. Now, in this scenario, we already have an actual value from the experimentation that was the yield. So we already have an actual yield. What we are going to determine now is what? The theoretical yield. Now, we are going to determine the theoretical yield. Permit me to clean this. Now, I want us to know that, to remember what we already written here, I want us to know that from our question earlier, we are told that 5 grams by proportion was what yielded what 20 grams of an ester. That means 5 grams of ethanol yielded what? Yielded 20 grams of the ester, which is the methyl ethanoate. So 1 gram of ethanol will yield what? Will yield 20 grams of the ester all over what? 5 grams of the ethanol by proportion. So remember that we are told that in the actual reaction, the amount of ethanol that was used was what? Was 2 grams, and yielded what? 3 grams of ester. So the 2 grams, therefore, the 2 grams of this, which is the actual amount that reacted, will give us what? Will give us 2 grams multiplied by 20 over 5 grams. That is this. So 2 grams times the answer you've gotten here. You can as well just say this divided by this, okay, and it gives an answer. Multiply it by what? By 2, it gives you 8. The same thing here. If you do it this way, you're going to have the same amount, because here 5 can cross itself 1, 5 will enter here 4. So you have 2 times 4, and this will give you what? It will give you 8 grams. So it's the same thing. Even if you had decided to cross this and then have 4, multiply the 4 by 2, you're going to have 8 grams. Now, this is what? This now form our what? Our theoretical yield. So we have now our actual yield, which was what? 3 grams. And then we now have our theoretical yield. So it means that following this particular formula, our percentage yield, which usually can be written as this, is equals to the actual yield is what? The actual yield is 3 grams all over the 8 grams, which is what? The theoretical yield we've calculated, times 100 over 1. So we can simply say 3 times 100, it will give us 300 grams all over what? 8 grams. And when you divide 300 grams by 8 grams, what you will have is 37.6 grams. No, sorry, this is not more in grams, because the grams are off, so this is in percent. So you have been able to calculate the percentage yield of what? An ester in the formation of what? In the reaction of ethanol with ethanoic acid. So you can see that your understanding of the basic mathematical formulas and mathematical calculations can assist you to understand how to apply most of these chemical calculations. So I'm sure today you have been able to learn how to calculate percentage yield from a certain chemical reaction. I'm glad we've done this again today. Do not forget to like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, to follow me on my Facebook page. Do not also forget to comment, and to share. Until next time.